Well, hello and welcome back to Betuor Gripley's Worst of 2026 video. Yes, I know I'm late. It's, I think, 5 days into February at the time of recording this. Actually, it's even 6 days. Yeah, it's actually the 6th of February. Oh well, I'm a little bit late. Had some problems getting the webcam working and just other stuff going on generally in life. But I did want to sit down and record these even though it's late. It's actually so late that one of these games on the list for the stuff that's upcoming is actually out now. But then also I feel a little bit more justified having it on the list because of that reason. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the list. This is a continuation of my worst of list from last year for 2025. Was like 2024, filmed in 2025. But now this is my list for 2025, filmed in 2026. To start off with, we have High Ground. Now granted, at the time putting this up there, it wasn't released, had just recently been announced, and a lot of stuff was negative about it. And I kind of want to focus a little bit more on that than what has actually came out since then, because it's also kind of changed my opinion slightly on it. But at the same time, I feel vindicated having it on here because of how its release has turned out. The biggest thing I wanted to put down for this one before it came out is the oversaturated genre it's in. Now, of course, you have some exceptions to this. On my best of video for last year and the year before, I've had Marvel Rivals, which I initially thought was going to be a major flop because it's another hero shooter. And those hadn't really been doing good. People didn't really kind of want to play them. It's another one to have to play and kind of grind and do this and that and blah blah blah. Free to play. Don't have all this stuff. But that one actually turned out to be successful. And you know, you could have some come out like that. But this was, to me, I consider another kind of hero shooter. I mean, it's I guess a little bit different, but I don't know, I'm not as big into that sort of genre to know or would best tell you the difference between Paladins or Overwatch or Apex Legends. Looks a little bit more like Apex Legends, but I also feel like I would still call that a hero shooter myself personally. But it's just, okay, you're going to do another game in a genre that's not very popular, it doesn't really do too well. Looked to be another one where they spent a lot of money on. I think had like a decently sized development team, which is, I mean, of course, with like the biggest costs kind of come into it. But you have that, and then you super hype it up at the Game Awards, which honestly are hot takes, overrated anyways. But that's kind of like the big sort of, here's we're going to announce a title that's really cool. Whoever it was hyped it up. About, oh, this is from the devs of this and that, and of course, like, it's the people that brought you this game that's popular, this one that's like not as popular, and it kind of like uses that pedigree of that first game, even though maybe nobody that really worked on that first one is still there. That fun legacy. Oh, this team made this. Well, did any of these people actually make that, or was it going to be anything like that particular game? But they kind of just overhyped it. It was kind of like, eh. It kind of looked like a lots of other games. And honestly, to me, I think that's probably the sort of worst thing it did, is it had sort of overhyped release or kind of like announcement that built it up to be something bigger than it was, while it's a game that's in a genre that doesn't normally get people hyped. And I think you kind of overdid it there, and you kind of made the news about your particular game more so negative than what it needed to be, and I think that then kind of made it a problem that more people sort of almost hated it before it came out, and that's just kind of like really made it, the release, more negative. Granted, also, I think it's fair to say that if it didn't have that, it probably would have released and just not have gotten the numbers it got, but would still kind of like die off, because the player base has really kind of died off. I mean, if for multiplayer PvP game, you do need a player base, unlike what the devs have said now, it doesn't need lots of players. It kind of does, because you need to find matches against other players. But would have died quicker. Granted, it hasn't officially been shut down yet. curious to see what it's going to be like. Also, I actually want to hop on and almost check out the characters. I'm going to actually do that with Concord because I didn't actually hate all the character design stuff in Concord. Just didn't actually make a video about that. But I don't hate all the stuff here in High God, but I have saw something looking at some of the stuff and it was a little bit kind of bland. I don't know, I feel like it needs just a little bit more. Also, was really shocked there was only 8 characters at launch. I feel like that's the type of game where you would want more variety in characters. I don't know, I feel like we've also got to the weird point where lots of games are releasing, it's like that's it. Like that's all the characters you have in this type of thing. And I know we have stuff that's like, oh, we'll release some later. Don't you want to release a little bit more now too? But yeah, so for that High God, I kind of have that on here because I didn't think it was going to do well. And like I said, I felt kind of vindicated now that it came out. Hasn't done good. Not that I want to like mega fail or anything, but I think they made a couple wrong decisions here, which I mean, admittedly could even be making the game in the first place, but not like in a hateful way. It's just there are some things I think you almost like need to read the room. What's popular, what's not popular, and also this, I believe it is free to play. Space is kind of crowded, and you really need something good to take players away, because not everything's going to be the next Fortnite or the next Marvel Rivals is going to come out and do good and kind of last. Some things come out and die because they just don't really have enough players interested in it. Also, some people have put maybe 1,600 hours or 16,000 hours, and some maybe like Paladins or whatever, so they're not going on to a different game no matter what you really do, unless it shuts down. So like, kind of not one you want to fight in, and then just how they kind of announced it. And granted, maybe that's the hype guy getting too hyped with it, though I don't know if that's a good slot, and whatever they spend, I think something saying he gave it to them for free, I kind of question that, because that's kind of like a good money slot too, so I imagine you would make some money. But like, was it worth spending that money on that? Like, I feel bad for the development team, but I don't think they super did anything majorly bad, but I don't think this was a good choice to also do, if that makes any sense. Next up, Assassin's Creed Shadows. I think most people knew it was going to be bad, and it came out and it was pretty bad, though I also would say I think probably the worst. Well, besides some of the history stuff, where they did that thing where it's supposed to be historically accurate, but it's also not historically accurate, and I don't know, you have to try really hard to like tread that like needle, thread the needle there to actually like for that. And I think too, the whole thing with like Yasuke being black, whether or not he was a samurai, and then, well, this is based off of history from this and this and this, and then doing stuff that's not very historically accurate, like having him like bang, was it his master's sister or something like that. There's lots of weird stuff going on there that's just all kinds of like weird. But I also want to say I feel like that's kind of the epitome to me of the like modern open world but kind of empty experience, where you have an open world but you're almost kind of like, why does this need to be open world? Oh, here's a repetitive little side quest, a little mission to do. Okay, here's little side stories that I just don't care about. And honestly, it looked like some of the stuff I saw, they didn't really care about them with the voice acting, animations and stuff for them. I mean, obviously you're not going to put as much effort into that as you do your main stuff. Like Genshin Impact, the main like story cutscenes, pretty good. You had some hype action stuff going on in some of it for like the boss battle setup, and then the side bits, just the characters. It is just obviously less effort got put into it, but I feel like that's a good example because I saw some people that kind of tried to hype it up and it looked like they just kind of got bored and stopped after like 8 hours because it was just like the same thing over and over and over again. And then, I mean, Yasuke looked like he could be almost a little interesting to play with him being a samurai, though. Like, the combat was really all that great. But then you also, because you made him more of a tanky samurai, he's also then not an assassin. I don't know, it's kind of weird, I think, having the characters also so split. But the reason why this game is on here again, because I probably would have forgot about it, and I talked about it last year, and I feel like it's almost like beating a dead horse. But that Attack on Titan collab, that was impressively bad looking. Granted, I think the Titans from Attack on Titan look bad anyways, and trying to put them in the art style of Assassin's Creed, I think made them look worse. But man, that just looked bad. And also, you mean Assassin's Creed's doing so good, it has to have a collab with Attack on Titan, which already I think had been over for like a year or two at that point anyway. So it's kind of like, why are y'all wasting time doing this particular thing? But that was just the one that kind of brought it back into my mindset. Just like, oh yeah, this game existed. Gosh, that was just really interesting. Of course, Ubisoft all going under, but I think they just also kind of need to make some better games, because also I think largely lots of the quality of games have gone down with how much they charge. And how many people they have working on them and stuff too. I don't know, like I said, maybe this should be, maybe don't make it as much of an open world, and you make maybe a little bit of a tighter experience for some of the stuff, or do something there to make it just a little bit better, because I don't think that one was it. Though I do think probably the Assassin's Creed, lots of like the Ubisoft open world games have kind of gone down as time's gone on, and that's just kind of been a more noticeable low point. But then I think of course it had all those other little controversies and other things before that went over in the last video, but with like the guy citing himself as an expert historian, and his source was himself from Wikipedia, but in an alt account, and he was using those two like accounts to back him up as an expert on it. That was probably some of the funniest stuff I have seen, for also the arguments on the historical accuracy of this particular game. Another one I have on here is sort of the worst thing, although honestly you could say it's kind of maybe, it's definitely not one of the best ones. Though another one that's similar to this is just the current value you get in a video game. I don't really think lots of games are really worth the price anymore. And then it's funny because I'm like, ooh, I don't know, Mario Kart World for like $80. Yes, please. I mean, the biggest thing there's just getting all that money, and then like the money for the console also at the same time. But there's lots of games where it's like, gosh, is that really an $80 game? Is that really a $70 game? Beat it for like in 10 hours. Is that really good? I mean, I'm looking at some stuff like, gosh, I have some like 2 years old games that's on sale right now on Steam for like $5. I can pick up a couple of those. That might take me 30 hours to get through one of those. I just don't think, I mean, not saying you always have to have amount of hours in game to the money you spend. I do like that. I think that is a solid metric for some stuff. Granted, enjoyment's also up there, but like, I don't think I'd like a 2-hour experience for $10. I'd like a little bit more than that. But you just have that with lots of stuff, and I think the best example, and I wish I could remember what the exact number was. I should have looked up before this. But I think it was like over 80%. I want to say it was like 94% of Steam players this year, or say last year. But I think this was like maybe in August too, or October. Like it wasn't the end of the year. But it was that much of their playtime had been spent in games that came out prior to the current year. Which, at least in fairness, you do have lots of people picking up stuff on sale. Maybe they waited till it went on sale. It could have been a game that came out the year before. It could still be like a new game, but they were waiting for it on sale. I do think also lots of older games had a little bit more longer playtime in it, so you might be actually playing that particular game for longer. Lots of different things like that, but it's like 6% of the playtime this year has been spent on new games. Also, like, in fairness, I had Ghost Frontline 2 on the best of this past year. I think it might technically came out the year before, but it took a little bit for it to come out on Steam, or at least in English. So I don't know if that one actually even counts as a game that came out last year or not technically in the system. I spent lots of time playing that. So you could have lots of stuff like that. You do have lots of live service games. Like if you're, let's say embedded, Stockholm Syndrome in Genshin, I guess. Somebody that played it for like 3 or 4 years. you might not really be stopping playing that anytime soon, and like that is getting constant updates and other things like that. So I wouldn't call that like an old game, because it is getting new stuff. There's new stuff to log in and do all the time. But so you do have some stuff being kind of skewed there, but the fact that not too many people playing new games, or at least also not playing them for long, like talk about with Assassin's Creed, it's like an open world full of stuff to do, but like none of it's interesting. Like you might go through and do the main story, a couple little side missions, and you might honestly be done with it rather quick. And I think a lot of that is like, oh, we have all this content, so the game's worth $70. You might play through it like it costs $20 or something like that. Of course, I know that's a little bit more of a very subjective opinion, but I don't think that kind of stuff's helping it at all. Like short and value games, you play it and then you're done and you move on to something else. Granted, too, I'd love to see a little bit more of a breakdown that you went over, like when were the games from that they played. Because too, it was like maybe if it's like a 20-year-old game, that definitely stands out more for like playing older stuff. 2 years ago, okay, maybe it was on sale for like 15% or something like that. So you know that's something you picked up. But I do think that's a sign that lots of this AAA stuff's not really going too well. Though I do think also every game wanted to release for $70, $80. Rockstar wanted to release their next game for potentially $100. I don't know if all that stuff's going to go over as well. I think we do need some more titles that are definitely cheaper. Even though if you think about it versus other hobbies, other things you can be spending money on, games aren't too majorly expensive, though. That is also the thing, how long are you getting out of that $80 experience? Are you playing that for more than 3 days and then you're moving on? Then that money's not really well spent. While you're playing it for 6 months, then it's probably pretty good. The other thing, which is a similar one, this is what got me confused, is modern day values in video games. Granted, it's almost kind of like a plus, because it seems like they're a little bit more on the way out. Potentially. It's a little spicy here, but I think we're nearing the point where games as a message are kind of going out, which is honestly kind of a good thing. But I do think there's a little bit of a negative that you're going to see a little bit more games that are like just political or social messaging that's not even really anything gameplay related coming out. Like we're reaching the point where they're not even putting any game into some of this stuff. But I think we almost need to get to that point before we get over some of the other stuff. But I think you do have enough of these games coming out and kind of flopping. You're probably going to have people that's going to then try to make a game as a game that's a fun, enjoyable experience before whatever message you're wanting to push. And not saying that you can't also do some of those. I think more of those are going to be very small and niche. Granted, I think you've also had some of those that came out that have also kind of crashed and burned. I think Dustborn took a decent bit of money to make, and I don't think it made back that money at all. With it, you had like 4,000 players or something, and maybe a little bit more when people bought it to play it to kind of joke on it. But like I think it got like $250,000, like what, the UK government or something weird like that. I don't think it made that money back. Granted, at least that one I think had some gameplay and stuff to it, because you're going to come out with a couple other ones that just kind of don't. What is it you have? You have Reloaded, at least has some gameplay, but that one also looks just kind of weirdly racist with some of the stereotypes in it. Take Me North looked like just all kind of political propaganda. And then, gosh, there was like one or two other ones I had seen that was like coming out that were very, very message oriented, that just didn't have any gameplay at all to them. That was just kind of like, okay, we'll get some of these out, but I think we're going to kind of get rid of some of these stuff that's pushing agenda, whatever you want to call it. I don't want to get into like too much of the politics, social, whatever stuff, but the stuff that you look at and go, that just doesn't really look fun. Probably you could say the usual suspects. I think you're going to have a little bit more of that stuff kind of die out. We're going to get some more stuff that's actually going to be good. Also, one good upside to some of this stuff is when more of it dies out, you're going to then have people stop giving money to it. I don't mean like consumers. I mean like the money people. You're going to have those particular games stop getting funded, so you can actually have better games get funding. I think Expedition 33 would be a good example of something like that. Like, you could have more games like that get funded, or you could have Microsoft Xbox fund Take Me North. Which one would you rather Microsoft fund? Would you like it to fund Take Me North or another Expedition 33? Would you like, was it $400 million Concord got? Because I think they also made them like rework and some other stuff. Like, I think there's some excuse there for the devs. I think there was a little bit more studio interference. I do believe that was probably meant to be a more story-based game before it got turned into the game it eventually came out to be. But like, gosh, what could you actually send that money towards to actually make something that was legitimately just better? Now, my favorite on the list, a rare one. I say rare one. I guess we have Assassin's Creed on here 2 times, but one that actually makes it on here twice again from last year's Multiverses, because it died again. It died two times. Twice. Very rarely do you have a game come out, die, and then get re-released and die again. So that was just kind of a very unique one, but I was somebody that played it quite a bit. I was actually kind of a daily player of that. I kind of liked some of the grind going on there. Lots of stuff was messed up with that game, but it had some fun things. I actually liked the rift mechanic, but I was always like a PvE player in Smash Brothers and other things like that. I guess mostly Smash Brothers, let's be fair. But that was how I kind of played, and it was like okay fun. I know I heard some stuff about like what it was like in the beta. Never played that. The 2v2 aspect didn't interest me at all. So them actually like sort of removing that largely was something I thought was really beneficial. But I know lots of people didn't like that. It kind of changed. It wanted a little bit more unique, though I do think sometimes you make stuff too unique and then it's not like appealing to other people. But you did have that one. Biggest issue, because I think the Fighter Road change was really bad. Before you got fighter currency, which was really slow. I think they should have upped that significantly. But you would earn this currency that you would then use to unlock characters. The newest character would obviously cost more currency, though if you did eventually get caught up, you're going to have too much else to do with your currency. Though I think also like maybe buying the battle pass or a couple other different ways, like some small monetization stuff that they had would get you the characters. And I do think like the premium currency, if you bought the battle pass and completed it, you did actually get enough currency then to get the next battle pass, which is nice. Might not be the best way to get people to then spend money. Maybe like, get 800 out of 1,000 currency. Although of course they didn't want you to spend the currency on other things, but if you're like me, you always saved up that currency then for the next battle pass. It's kind of what you did. Especially too, they always like put the best skins behind like a paywall where you couldn't use the currency. You actually had to use real money, and then it was maybe like 3,000 real currency, and it costs 1,000 to buy like a battle pass. I'm just gonna save that for the battle pass. I'm not gonna try to spend it on this. That's 3 battle passes, which gives me other skins and other stuff. Also, I kind of liked lots of these skins, the characters that they gave the skins away for the battle pass, because that was like the less popular characters, but I actually liked some of those characters. But yeah, the monetization kind of bad there. The Fighter Road thing, with the Fighter currency, they changed it to Fighter's Road, because before with the currency, you got that and you could unlock any character that you wanted. Okay, Fighter's Road changed it so where you had a linear unlock path where you had to walk through the characters and the newest character would be at the end and there was no way to skip to them. There was a couple times where I think you could like choose one of two characters, but there was lots of characters on there I didn't really care for. Obviously, that's why I didn't unlock them with currency beforehand. But then all the later characters, the ones I actually was interested in, you then had to do that, and it was like a long grind to get the currency or get the XP that way. And then it's like, okay, you unlocked Rick, you unlocked Morty, you unlocked Steven Universe, you unlocked Garnet, you unlocked, I think, Beetlejuice, and there's like maybe two other characters I think I wasn't really interested in at all. Steven Universe, Rick and Morty, and Beetlejuice was probably the three IPs I was the least interested in, I believe, of the stuff that was released in the game. And then of course right before they like officially ended it, because they did give you the two characters at the end, which was nice. They released, was it Marceline and Raven? And I'm like, okay, those are two characters I'm actually interested in. You make me unlock all these other trash characters beforehand, really. I think it might have also been like one of the Gremlins characters. Just a franchise I never got into personally. But that was just kind of a really bad one, where it's like, okay, I think you could pay to unlock it, but there was like, I think almost like $5 or $10 a character, which feels excessive to me as somebody that, I mean, I know the latest Smash had DLC, but for me, largely that game is you have most of the roster, and there's a couple of special characters to unlock as you go around. You play the game a little bit and you unlock it, which I don't actually mind unlocking characters. I know there's some people that complain about it. It was like, that was never good. I actually think that was an okay mechanic, though you just want to make it not too difficult. I think it was like classic Smash Brothers is maybe like you did 10 fights and then you had like something come up where you could unlock the character. Something different like that. Maybe don't make it where you only can unlock like 2 characters a month. I think that was kind of the rate it was with like the fighters currency. Like the unlocked currency, but that was pretty bad in like the skin situation. Them having like skins that they wanted you to buy for $30 was kind of steep. I think the cheapest skins in that game were $5, and those were like, okay, this one he's kind of blue because it's the winter skin, and he's kind of supposed to look a bit like ice. And this one's that same kind of effect for the eyes, was like semi-transparent, but this time it's like pinkish, orange something, because it's supposed to be like a space portal thing, and these are the characters from the space portal, whatever the lore was for that. And it was just like, okay, you want me to really spend money on these? No. Matrix skins, those were cool. The like wireframe coloring of them. And you had a couple other ones that were a little bit cooler. Like I liked some of the characters in the Jason mask. I think that one was a little bit neat. The Beetlejuice recolors were actually pretty good. Cinco de Mayo had a couple okay things. It was like some of them were hit or miss, and then you would have like maybe 6 characters that got a skin, and it's like, do you actually even like any of these characters? Do you play any of these characters? Because some of them were like really cool, but like I don't even play that character. So like, why would I want to get that? Well, I don't even have that character unlocked. I think there was one time where it was like 3 skins, and I didn't have any of the characters unlocked. And it's like, okay, cool. And then of course they wanted you to use that to then complete the event, which lets you get a little bit more currency, which then maybe lets you get another skin. But like if the skins were already kind of mid, it's like eh. And then too, some of the stuff was kind of nice to maybe get a variety of the skins you could use on the events. Because they would have rarities, so you maybe would have like the basic one. There might be ones that's a more proper skin where they kind of build up for some of them. And they have a little bit more going on there, but you could get one like basic, or like maybe 3-4 basic skins, 2 like medium skins, or 1 like good skin. It's like sometimes I like to get maybe the more basic ones, or like I think it was like the winter ones. You had like Velma and Shaggy in like winter sweaters. Okay, that was kind of nice. I think they maybe like blue. There was a little bit more of a recolor there. So like maybe I want to get that one instead of that one character here, and to get a couple of these. And you had like the school event, which was kind of cool. It was like a Hogwartsy type thing. You got like some different students and stuff where you get like the really cool magical girl Wonder Woman. That one was kind of neat. Or I could get a schoolgirl, what was it, Raven skin, schoolgirl, Velma skin. I don't think Taz had a schoolboy skin. I think he had like a Greaser skin that was in the like battle pack. But you had lots of stuff like that, and it's just like you need to do like a better job of monetizing this. I mean, maybe if the best skin was at most $10, that would probably help you too. Because it's just like, do you really want to spend money on this game? Not really. $30 for a skin, just one skin, and like I said, lots of them didn't even look necessarily all that good. It's like, why would I spend money on these like random orangey pink Hyper Vortex? I think that was the name of that skin collection was. And it's like, these are just kind of like basic. And like, I don't really care for Beetlejuice. They had some interesting skins there, but I'm not going to spend money on these skins for that one. Also, basically, I think they could have done a better job of picking some of the characters. I get why they did LeBron James, and it was kind of interesting having him. It was definitely something different, but they were trying to push that Space Jam movie. That one really worked out. It was LeBron James. Michael Jordan might have been cooler. And then, like, Black Adam, which I actually really liked him. He was actually a really good character in the game, but then they were just pushing that Black Adam movie at the time where they were before, and all the weird stuff with DC that happened. But yeah, just a really weird game. Feels like, you know, a Warner Brothers with DC stuff, Cartoon Network, and other interesting picks that they could have done. Should have made it, and I think the biggest thing there is its monetization. Also, I think by basically pulling the game when people spent a lots of money to play it originally and having it be gone for what, like a year and a half, I don't think that helped people. That didn't, I think, get you goodwill. I think a lot of people didn't return after that. They felt, in my opinion, rightfully gypped because it wasn't like listed as a beta that's going to be going away. You didn't think if you spent $150 for the whatever bundle, which you probably might should do with many games, but I know some YouTubers I follow that did that, then didn't want to get back into it when it came out because they felt like they got kind of more or less robbed there. And I think that's a rightful opinion to have. And just like, man, so much mismanagement there. And then to the end, they didn't even give you everything unlocked, which, like, hey, that would have been really cool to have done. Let me use all the skins and all the stuff in offline mode. Oh well. Next up on the list, a little bit of a different one, is Splitgate 2. Most of them they had to pull that one, if I remember correctly. I think, I want to say maybe it's still kind of out there. There was something talking about it, or it was going to be reworked, but Splitgate 1's also still out there, so it's weird. But that one's just came out, I think, after having lots of goodwill from Splitgate 1. I have a friend, Tim, who sometimes streams the game, or would stream it. I think he likes Splitgate 1 more than 2. But I think they just kind of really mishandled. I think like one of the ones that stood out the most to me is, I want to say it was like, was it $34 for a skin for your portal to make it white? Like, that was one of the monetization elements that they had for the game, was making the portal white. And like, I want to say it was $30-something. It could have been. It could have been more than that. It might have even been $64, but whatever it was, that was a lots of money to spend for a skin in the game, and I think it just kind of got rid of all the goodwill it could have had with lots of that stuff. And I don't know, I remember just hearing lots of people, and this is, I think, from, according to Tim, too, and somebody that played Splitgate 1, and people that would also hop on and play it with him sometimes on stream, that most of them thought Splitgate 1 was just better. And then them taking Splitgate 1, we're trying to take it away and put the monetization to that, just stuff just didn't work out. And I feel bad for them because they had the game that seemed decently unique and people liked, or liked enough, and this one came out and just kind of crashed and burned. And enough where they were going like go back and rework it. And I think they also tried to do like a little bit more battle royale mode too, instead of what it was like beforehand, and people just kind of didn't like that as much. I don't know, I forget what all the stuff was with it, but that just was one that just didn't do too good, and I think it did have some genuine goodwill going into it that they could have used to actually make that a game that was maybe more successful than the previous game was. And it was kind of sad to see that one just did not do it. Now, the final one, this is kind of going to be like a quick rundown of some different things. But this is all the games that released, all like the big, a little bit more, I don't even say anticipated games, but ones that released to a whimper. And more of this is just things that had like a high pedigree or something that should have done good. And kind of came out and was not really talked about, kind of forgot even released this year. Because also some of this was kind of hard for me to actually come up with the list for, because it's like, okay, what was even these games? Because some of them was like, okay, what was even released? For the ones I can think of off the top of my head, you had, I think it was Outer Worlds 2, Outer Worlds, Outer Wilds, I forget which, I think it was Outer Worlds. Avowed, I think it was Unknown Number 9, South of Midnight, which I haven't got talked about a little bit more. And then I'd honestly kind of even say Monster Hunter World. Add maybe that to the list a little bit too. Though I'll give that maybe a little bit of a side one. And I guess there's a couple other ones that released that were like from people that was like, oh, you knew them as the developers of this, or they worked on this particular game, blah blah blah, and it just kind of didn't do good. Outer Worlds 2, because I think that's the name of it. I'm actually surprised that one even got a sequel, because I didn't really hear too many good things about the first game. It was just kind of like okay, it's supposed to be kind of like Fallout in space, sort of. But I just didn't really hear too many great things about it. I was really surprised it got a sequel. And the biggest thing I heard about that one was like with how the first one was received, they were surprised it released as like a full price title. So I think a lot of people just didn't get it. Avowed didn't really get too much marketing, but there are people like picked beef with Elon on X, with he owns that site, so I don't think that really worked out good for them. They made the game, I think, way more political than it needed to be, and the lots of stuff I saw from it was just kind of mid-looking for the price of that game, and just kind of not too many people even just kind of talked about it for being a game of the caliber that it was supposed to be. I think coming out that way and just not doing too great, what wasn't good for them. Unknown Number 9 had this weird like post-release marketing scheme where they're supposed to be doing audiobooks and podcasts. If that was even this, it might have even been last year, but I believe that was this year. I remember talking about that at work, of all this different stuff they had planned after release that could have been interesting if the game was good. Just kind of nobody really played the game, so nobody really cared to do any of that. Granted, lots of the stuff just didn't seem the most interesting either, but they were supposed to be doing some stuff, and that one just unfortunately kind of died, because it would have been cool to see something come out, maybe have that kind of extra media sort of follow-up afterwards. So like a narrative podcast did seem kind of weird, and I don't know if there's many games that I would even like really check that out for, but it could have been cool. But yeah, that was one that was sad. South of Midnight, was that had some other stuff going on. We didn't really hear too much about it, except for I think some of the music going on in some of the fight scenes or something. That was kind of all I really heard about that game. And honestly, Monster Hunter World was one that was really hyped up before it released, and I just didn't see too much. I know I see something every now and then when they release a new content drop. There might be some people streaming it. But with how popular Monster Hunter Wilds was that World and this one's Wild? I forget which even is a W game. Is this like the follow-up supposed to be more open world? You would have thought this one would have carried on and been bigger, though I think that was also a problem of kind of like The Sims has too, where every time they release a new game, there's content sort of cut from it that was in the last game with all the expansions, and of course they add some new monsters, so you probably remove some old monsters, but then it always feels almost a little bit incomplete to that version of the previous game you played, which then had all the content for it. So you kind of had some stuff with that one, but That's one I kind of put here a little bit as a loss. Where it's like I just don't think that one was as popular as it was supposed to be. I think that maybe is the most one that's like a little bit more of a whimper too. It's not one you didn't hear about, but it's one that just didn't do what people were probably expecting it to do. And of course, like I said, I'm sure there's a couple other things you can add to this list, but there was lots of different games that was kind of like, oh yeah, that released this year. And like honestly, that's kind of one of the ones that stands out the most. Is like stuff like, was that this year? Was that last year? Really, what was that? But then also just another one I want to add on here, because I feel bad almost with this, because I was seeing some stuff and it almost was like making it more like Nintendo versus Sega or something. And somebody that is interested in Mario Kart, I don't want to feel like I'm hating on like the competition, if you will. But there was an article that had released that said Sonic Crosswords had underperformed like internal sales figures or something. And I thought that was kind of interesting, because I know they was trying to make some beef online between that and Mario Kart and some other stuff. Personally didn't think the Crosswords really looked all that great. But then also like was it Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing Transformed or something like that? I like that one. And I think if maybe they just did a newer version of that could have been cooler. Maybe stuck with more of the Sega characters instead of doing almost like the Fortnite random collab stuff. Was like, oh, we're gonna have Minecraft Steve, and we're gonna have what was it? SpongeBob, and there's a couple other things. It was just like, that's kind of weird. I probably would prefer more Sega characters and some other things, and the worlds, like you go to different world mid-map. That, I don't know, that didn't interest me as much. Though I probably would have said something about an open world Mario Kart would have also interested me, but I actually wound up really thinking that one was neat once I saw it. Though also I didn't think the tracks maybe looked as good, but maybe if I saw them more, would enjoy them. But then also I think Sonic has a really interesting like world aesthetic, and you could have done a little bit more probably with that than some of this other stuff they did. But maybe that was supposed to be a reference to this thing. I don't know. That one was just a little bit weird. And then hearing that it was it $60-$70? And it wasn't like maybe a $40-$30 game, which is really what I honestly thought that one would be, especially with I think talking about like future DLC and some other stuff like that. I don't know if that was like a smart idea there too. You might could have sold more by making it cheaper, though. And somebody who is kind of planning on getting Mario Kart at some point, it's kind of ironic for me to say this, but I don't think I would be buying too many racing games like kart races for a full price game like that. That's one that's a little bit probably the lower end of the prices to me, at least like mid-range. But it's sad to hear that one didn't do good for whatever they figured. Granted, I don't know, it could be something where they figured it was going to make 8 times more than what was feasible, and it still did good, it just didn't reach those insane numbers. Like I know some people talk sometimes with some movie releases like, pick too much on Superman, but like Superman, that's going to easily make $2 billion, and it's like, ooh boy, if you were thinking it's going to make $2 billion at $625 million or something, that's not good. Even though that should probably be good for a movie, you might need to actually make sure it's priced correctly or budgeted correctly and all that, because I think also some games are getting too expensive just because you're hiring 256 people to work on it, and they all live in California, so everybody makes minimum $100,000 a year, and it's like, okay, that times this, and you work on it for 6 years, and it's like, ooh, no wonder you lost money. But yeah, just kind of sad to see that one not do as good, though don't know fully what that actually entails. Though it was interesting to hear about that one, because I was kind of curious what that one did. Because it was also kind of unfortunate, I feel like, for that one. I think that one got announced first, and then Mario Kart got announced, and I thought that was way cooler than the Sonic game, which is also, I think, unfortunate too, because it's like, okay, you probably don't have money to buy one of those. myself, I would be buying the Mario game and not the Sonic one, so I'm wondering if that hurt. And then you also have Air Raiders come out, which probably lost niche of a market, but you might also had some overlap there. That's, you know, money too, and it's just like really unfortunate that that one just didn't do good. But like, I can't entirely blame it. I think some of the marketing too for that one was bad, because I feel like I heard a lot more about who was the DLC random other picks than what was actually going to be in the game itself. So yeah, unfortunately that was kind of making the list just because of that most recent news. I don't think I'm going to put that on here normally, but just hearing that something like that did underperform, and it was like coming from the company itself. I think it was like Sega Investor Call. It's not just like something I'm making up or thinking it didn't do good because it seemed like it had too much traction or anything like that. It's actually them themselves saying it, which makes it lots more real. But yeah, that's really all I have for this one. Do let me know, what do you think are the worst things of the year this past year in video games? Was anything I missed? Anything you feel like differently than me? Have you seen some of my best of and you think some of that should be on the worst of? Or you think some of this stuff that's on the worst of should be moved over there? Is there any games you think I missed for that came out to a whimper? Because I know there's lots of different things that felt a little bit more higher pedigree that just kind of, I don't know, nobody is interested, but you don't really think you really had that many people that worked on that game previously actually work on the latest version of the game. I think that's very common. Or like, one person got copied papers that worked on that game from like 25 years ago, so we're going to list them as being on the team now. But even though they're in charge of character designs now, which they didn't do for that game back then, we're going to list them as having worked on this game, and it's kind of like the pedigree of that. And I think you have lots of that right now, which is kind of hurting games a lot. But yeah, do let me know what you think down in the comments below, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day. And if you haven't checked out already, do check out the best of list. Let me know what you think of that one. Because while this one is, I guess, a little bit more negative focused, I mean, heck, it's the worst of, so it probably should be. There's definitely lots of positive stuff, and there's lots of stuff I talked about there. And I saw the one last year. I think it had, like, this one had 3 times the viewers of that one, which I can't blame you. But people do like to say lots of stuff's a little bit too negative, and I do have a long list of positive stuff I went over there as well. So do let me know in the comments below what you think about this, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day. And hopefully 2026 is going to have a little bit less negative stuff than made it on this list. Though, unfortunately, I don't want to kick the dead horse. I think you're probably going to have some High God making it again next year, if I even remember it by the time next year rolls out. So until then, we're going to be signing off. Goodbye, have a wonderful day, and hope to see you in a future video. And I hope you've enjoyed this particular video. So until then, bye-bye.